Hey guys, it's Paige. Welcome back for another video, and today I am with my husband and we are going to do the 2017 I think it's called the Book Academy Awards thing. I saw the Rainy Reader do this tag and she copied it from Bookadoodles. I'll link both of their videos down below so you can go watch theirs, and I thought this would be a cute little fun thing for me and my husband to do. So basically there are, I don't even know how many categories because we kind of customized it to our own. But you go through the different categories and we tell which book that we read in 2017 fits that category for us. So the first category is Best Standalone. Mine is, I don't have a hard copy of it and I got it on a Kindle to read, but it was Asleep by Crystal Wade, which I got for free from Blaze Publishing, which I'm a rep for. It was very moving. It's set in Tennessee and I'm from Tennessee, so it brought a little bit of home back to me. And it was a really good kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street-esque book, which I've never seen before. And what was your favorite standalone?
Okay, so I had two that tied, in my opinion. One is The Life Engineered, which you may have heard before, because I keep bothering my wife about it. Basically, it's a far distant future sci-fi book that is kind of like a murder mystery that involves artificial intelligence. And then I also have Seven Eves, and it's also kind of a futuristic novel, but it starts off in modern day times with the Earth getting destroyed. So it's interesting to see how they deal with that and how they overcome it. Alright, so the next category is least favorite read. And my least favorite, I don't have a hard copy, I just have the Kindle edition, but it is The Long Hidden, which we read for our book club. It was a series of short stories.
And I liked it. I got through it. Like with any book that has like is an anthropology, you like some and you dislike some, but it was really good. And if you're looking for short stories that on the sci-fi realm that have a lot of diversity, especially with LGBT plus groups, that anthropology is the one. There was a ton of diversity in it, and I liked the majority of them. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I don't even think you got through it before you DNF'd it.
I DNF'd it.
So my least favorite was Nine Fox Gambit by Johan Lee. Hated this book. If you like military sci-fi, this is the book for you. I DNF'd it, so I don't even really know what it's about. What is this about? Because I got so confused reading it. I didn't know what was going on. I think I made it to page 100 and I called it quits.
It's a military sci-fi, but the science is so out there it could be considered a type of magic. I don't really remember the plot, to be honest with you.
See? It's a bad book.
I liked it, but I don't remember it.
He's wanting to read book 2 of it. That's how much he likes it.
I'd have to reread it.
Alright, the next category is Shortest Read, and for me it was The First by Dylan S. Perry. I actually helped Beta read this book, and it's like my child. It's not really my child. I'm not the author of it, but I kind of helped make it grow up. It is about this girl. She loses her mother within the first chapter, and she has these visions kind of where things don't make sense, and so she's trying to figure out what these visions are when she meets this strange woman that supposedly knows everything and tells her that she's a very important figure to her cult. And this book is set in I think it's set in 1600s. I want to say 1645. I might be wrong on that. So any type of women empowerment, women cults is considered witchcraft. So it was really interesting, and I love this book. I love Dylan. She's a really good writer.
Okay, so my quickest read, the shortest read.
Shortest read.
I'm saying Nine Fox Gambit because I flew through it whenever I was reading it for our book club. I think I did it in a day or two.
Yeah.
So
It took me a week to DNF it, and he got through it in like a few days. Alright, so again, I don't have the book for this, but the next category is longest read. If you were following me back in, I think, August or September, I think August, September, then you know that I conquered It by Stephen King on audiobook. I listened to that thing for 24 hours, driving back and forth to work. It took me about 3 weeks, I think, in total to get through it. It was really good. If you don't know what it is about, if you've been living under a rock, basically it's set in Derry in the, what is it, the 80s? 60s, 80s? Something like that. Yeah. And it follows this group of kids who have been terrorized by this. It's basically a clown, but he's a shapeshifter.
It's a demon.
It's a demon. Demon, otherworldly figure. There's a turtle. It gets kind of weird, so you really have to pay attention to it. And then there's some really gross parts in it too that you really don't want to be listening to when you're driving a car, because then you want to puke. But it's a good book.
Okay, so my longest book was probably A Ship of Magic, or one of the other books in the trilogy. I read all three. They're about 900 pages each. They have a lot of character and world building, which is why I liked them, and no one has plot armor. So terrible things happen to main characters. It's interesting. Alright, the next category is Most Disappointing Ending, and I'm nominating Warcross.
I don't agree.
I don't want to get spoilery, but the ending didn't have any closure to it, and it felt more like an anticlimax. It wasn't an ending. It was just kind of like a cliffhanger, and the story stopped.
It was a cliffhanger. That's how they're supposed to end.
And I feel like it was more of a gambit to sell more books of the second book in the series.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So,
but it was a good book, wasn't it?
The story was good, and I liked it until the last page, and then I'm like, that's not an ending.
Alright, and I don't have my copy because I participate in Kid Lit Exchange, so I receive books from different people, and we kind of share and review books. So that book is gone far away, somewhere in the U.S. But my most disappointing ending was As You Wish by Chelsea C. Doughty. It came out the 2nd of January, I believe. But basically it is about this town, and on everyone's 18th birthday, they get to make a wish, and it comes true. So there is magical realism, and it's a pretty good story. It's from the viewpoint of a boy. And I don't see a lot of books for the viewpoints of teen boys anymore. So I really enjoy books that are from that perspective, because I think that they're becoming a bit of a minority, since a lot of YA teen fiction is from the viewpoint of girls. But man, I got to that ending and I was like, what the hell? The next category is Cliffhanger That Broke Me the Most, and for me it was Calamity. Now, Ethan will probably say that it's not a cliffhanger, but it was a cliffhanger. Brandon Sanderson, I think he does this. This is my only series that I've read by him, but it seems like he left it very open for a possible expansion, and I have read on his website a synopsis of a new-ish series that sounds like an expansion to this series. So if you are a Reckoners fan, there might be more Reckoners coming. But this ending, it broke me. I don't cry. I don't normally cry when I read. I have cried reading all 3 of his books. So he broke me.
For this category, I'm nominating Mortal Engines. And
it broke you.
You spend the entire novel getting to know many different characters, and by the end, there's a lot fewer of them. So, reader beware.
Is that the one with the moving cities?
Yes.
And it's becoming
and it's
a movie.
Yep.
It's becoming a movie. I think
It
it's
will
coming.
It's coming out next December.
Oh, nice.
Or this December.
This December.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. It does have, like, if you're a fan of Howl's Moving Castle, which I know is a Studio Ghibli movie, and it's a book by Diane Wayne Jones, I believe it is. It has some of the same elements, but a bit more grotesque from what he's told me. I've not read it yet. So if you're a fan, you might want to check that one out if you're into more adult fiction now.
The next category is favorite new series started, and I have two. One is The Hatching. Basically, spiders start hatching out everywhere and take over the earth.
It's a spider apocalypse.
If you have arachnophobia, I would not suggest you read this. It even gave me a little creepy vibes, and
He doesn't like looking
I
at
may have
spiders
had
now.
a nightmare. But yeah, it was really good at making your skin crawl. And I've read the second one, which is also on my list, and the third one's coming out this year. And then my second nominee is Dark Intelligence, which is Neil Asher, which has become one of my favorite authors now. And it involves a rogue AI, and the main characters try and track it down and destroy it.
For my new favorite series started, I don't have the first one. I thought I did, but apparently I only have the ebook copy. But it is the Monster of Selkirk series by C.E. Clayton. She is an indie author, and she is such a sweetheart. But basically, this book revolves around this girl named Talus. Her parents, who were childless and could not bring a baby to term, found Talus when she was an infant in the woods, brought her into their home and raised her. And I think when she was 15, 16, she went with her mother on a scavenging trip because this world has elves. And there's an ongoing war between humans and elves. The humans, every year they go and they push the elves back, and so there's a big bloody mess. So Talus and her mother go to scavenge for stuff that they can sell to make some extra money on the side when the elves attack. Her mother screams Talus's name, and then the elves invade Talus's village, chanting her name over and over again, and she doesn't know why. And so basically it's her journey to figure out what the crap is going on. Next category is the most bizarre read. For me, it was This Mortal Coil by Emily Suvada. Loved this book. Loved it to death. I think I devoured it in 2 or 3 days. Basically, but the why it's bizarre is because in this world there is a virus that people get. It's a dystopian, by the way. It's a dystopian sci-fi book. So the world is becoming consumed by this virus that people get, and when they become infected, on the second stage of the infection, they could blow up at any time. So throughout this book, there are random people that just blow up in a big bloody mess, like on the cover of this.
My nominee for the most bizarre read is Beggars in Spain, which was a book that I thoroughly enjoyed, that dealt with basically genetic engineering and pushing the limits and also the definition of what it means to be a human, I suppose.
The big question asked in that book, which I really liked, is if you could have the chance to live without ever needing to sleep again, would you do it?
Yes.
We're both night owls. Actually, we're shooting this video at 11:14 at night. But
Okay.
why was it bizarre for you? Because I loved it.
I mean,
Lengthy, but I liked it.
it just involved, I think, concepts that aren't normally explored in literature. So that's why I considered it bizarre.
And also it
It
involves...
was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it also involves very young children, too. Like, the book starts with this couple, and this procedure to make sleepless children is it's in trial stages. So it starts with this couple who want to, well, the man does, the woman really doesn't, but the man wants to have a child genetically altered, so she is a genius, a girl, and is sleepless.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point on, a lot of young children are involved throughout this book.
Okay, so the next category is the best audiobook experience, and for me, that is Illuminae, and it's a great book, but it also happens to be the only one I listen to on audiobook, so it's the best audiobook experience.
His car is not able to do Bluetooth, so what is it? There's people talking outside. Okay, so strangely enough, I made that comment about we shouldn't be hearing people. We're on the second floor, and then the clip ended. The camera cut off. That's kind of weird. So yeah, Illuminae, which is also my choice. I don't even know if I said that yet. Which is also my choice for best audiobook experience. Full cast of characters. Oh, the kitty wants to nominate books now. She says, "I Peed on This," which is a book of cat poems, was the best book ever in all categories. Yeah, don't you?
Yeah.
I think we have it somewhere. Oh yeah, it's over there. But yeah, full cast of characters, sound effects, slight changes from the book, but overall, an amazing audiobook. I had the Gemina audiobook. I finished Gemina the book a couple of months ago. Can't wait to get to it.
Alright, so for the next category is Most Unsettling Read, and my nominee, which you may or may not have guessed, is The Hatching. And
The cat really wants to be a part of this video now.
She likes it too.
You like spiders?
It's kind of like a horror film in book format. You read it because you like getting scared.
But you had a
nightmare.
nightmare.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was a good book.
Oh my god.
And I'm looking forward to the third one coming out this year.
My most unsettling read was Beggars in Spain, which I don't have a hard copy of. I just have the Kindle, by Nancy Kress. It was unsettling because they tested on babies in utero, and while they were still very young, I thought that was very unsettling how they just went in and changed a few genes in babies. And as the book goes on, the book is split into 3 parts. As the book goes on, there are more disastrous results that occur because of them playing around in genes. So the next category is favorite cast of characters. Mine are everyone in A Million Junes by Emily Henry. This book, oh, it is brilliant. It is so good. Please do not believe what the publisher says. It is not a Romeo and Juliet retelling. It kind of has elements of it, but it is not. It is a book about this girl. Her name is June, which is short for Junior. She is living after her father has passed away, I think 3 years ago. She's still trying to deal with it because her and her father were really close. June can see ghosts, so there is a bit of magical realism about that. And there is this family that her family has been feuding with, but when June meets the descendant, I guess, of her father's enemy, she grows quite fond of him, and it's a romance kind of, but it's a very beautiful book. It is a very beautiful example of magical realism, and oh, I loved it. I usually don't read contemporaries, but I love this.
Okay, so my nominee for this category, which is what is this category?
Favorite cast of characters.
So my nominee for the favorite cast of characters is Skitter, which is the second book in this series. Unfortunately, all I have is the audiobook, so I can't show you the cover. But in the first book, the world gets, it doesn't get destroyed, but it definitely gets thrown out of the skilled and into the fire, so to speak.
Killer spiders.
And so the second book is about how all these individual people are surviving in this new an extremely dangerous world, and it does a lot of character building, and I like them the most out of all the books I read this year.
Wasn't the hatching the one that you said people would be introduced in one chapter and then be killed by the end of it?
Yeah. For at least some of the chapters.
Okay, because how can you have a cast of characters if they keep being killed off?
Well, there are a few main characters that doesn't happen to.
Okay. It's just so weird. He would be like, and so-and-so was introduced, and then so-and-so died.
And then they got ate alive, or... Alright, the next category is Best Thriller, and for mine it is The Sixth Extinction, which is basically a race against time, because there's an artificial plague that gets let loose upon the world, and they're trying to contain it before it destroys the entire world.
And my best thriller nomination, which I don't have anymore, it was a kid-lit exchange book, is what is it called? Okay. A Darkly Beating Heart by Lindsay Smith. It is about this girl. She has gotten in trouble in the U.S., and I believe she is she's Japanese American. She goes over to Japan to stay with, I think, an uncle or an aunt, something like that, to kind of try to restart herself and to correct her. So I don't know. I don't like calling it a punishment, because oh my God, Japan would be an amazing trip, and it would be a vacation. That is not a punishment. Please punish me by sending me to Japan, please, please. But so she gets sent there, and a couple of friends / co-workers are going to this historical site to do some filming. She goes, and she it's kind of like Outlander. She goes to this shrine thing, I think it is, and when she touches it, she's transported back in time. But there is something amiss, there is something evil, and it is basically her trying to figure out what happened in that time period she keeps being sent back to, and what is this evil entity that is brewing. Next category is Best Relationship / Friendship. For me, I'm going to nominate the whole of the Carver series by Jacob Devlin. That's another Blaze Publishing book. You really need to check out Blaze Publishing books. Even though I'm a rep, I really do enjoy their books. And this video is not sponsored by them at all, by the way. But basically, the Carver is kind of a retelling of many different fairy tales. But mainly the main character is the son of Pinocchio, which, you know, you never hear a retelling about Pinocchio. And so he befriends Peter Pan, Snow White. Snow White is there, Alice from Alice in Wonderland, Hansel and Gretel. All of these different casting characters are there, and the way that they complement each other is really, really amazing, and it's a really good example of how good of a writer he is, because he builds these relationships so well throughout the series.
My nominee for this category, I only have the ebook, is The Strain, which is kind of like a modern day retelling of Dracula, if you will. And I picked this because the relationship between the character who you would relate to as Van Helsing, which is this old World War II survivor, helps this guy from the CDC figure out what's going on and how to combat these vampires that are popping up all over the city. Okay.
It's also an ebook.
My nominee for the best reread is Demon Spawn. And
ooh, that is a really good book.
Yes. I'll have to, let's see, the author is Glenn Bullion, and he's become one of my favorite authors of this past year. So yeah, Demon Spawn is about a guy who finds out that he's not entirely human, and he's trying to figure out what to do with that information and how he can try to have a normal life even though he doesn't quite fit in anymore. And it has a lot of good inter-character relationships and character building. Also, it's like R-rated, so
yeah, it's very adult.
Yeah, if you're a teenager or something, I don't know.
It's very mature. If you are
Yes.
a very mature reader, you could probably read it, but I don't think the author recommends anyone under 18 read it. But again, I mean, I read Pet Sematary when I was 12, so I don't believe it really in age recommendations. I believe more in like maturity levels, in that but probably your parents would know best what you're emotionally able to read and understand.
Also, disclaimer, anything written by Robin Hobb, also maturity warning. Yes.
Very mature. There's a lot of very adult themes discussed, and very upsetting, and trigger warnings. Lots of trigger warnings throughout that series. I've not read them, but he's talked to me about them, and I do like to try to disclaim trigger warnings in reviews. So
I don't know what would trigger anyone watching this, but it's been related to like Game of Thrones books, so yeah.
yeah.
I think that pretty much sums it up.
See here. My best and only reread of 2017 is Caravel by Stephanie Garber. Basically, if you don't know what this book is about, it's basically about this carnival that shows up in the dead of night, and it's there for a week and then it disappears again. But it follows these two sisters that have always wanted to go, but they have a very bad home life with their dad. He's very abusive. And one night, the younger of the sisters, Donatella, she kind of just takes off, and it's the older sister's journey on the eve of her wedding to this anonymous man, no less, to find her sister before her wedding and before her father can, to try and save her sister from probably the worst punishment that they would receive in their life. Right. We took out the categories involving comic books and graphic novels because we don't. Well, I kind of read graphic novels, but I really don't read comic books or graphic novels anymore.
And I haven't read any this year,
so they would be blank. So I added one category, he added one category.
Mm-hmm.
So this was my add-on category. It is Most Surprising Read. I have two. The first one is Orleans by Sherry L. Smith. It is another dystopian. I really love dystopians. Basically, what happened was hurricanes that were worse than Katrina came and wiped out a lot of the southern states. So that would be Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, most of Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi. Well, I think most of Mississippi, I'm not sure. But so they were wiped out. There's still people living there, but because there were so many hurricanes, there was a plague that started going around that was very infectious and affected people differently based on their blood type. And my phone went off again. And I keep finding bookmarks in books. This is the second book I picked up that had a bookmark in it. So the story follows this girl. Her name is Finn. And she is living in Louisiana, in New Orleans, after this outbreak, just trying to survive. Her friend, who's also the tribe member, because they've all kind of broke off into these little tribes, gives birth to a baby. And so Finn becomes this mother, basically, overnight, because her friend dies in childbirth. And she becomes this mother overnight and has to protect this child. And it also follows the second character who's come from the other states to try and figure out what happened and tries to figure out a way he can possibly cure it.
Okay.
Oh, and I forgot I had another one.
Okay.
And my other surprising read was The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I didn't think I would like this because I normally don't read adult literature. And the back of it, and this is also marketed as a feminist book, although it really should belong in the dystopian category, but whatever, Margaret Atwood can call it what she wants to.
She was adamant that it wasn't a feminist novel.
She's adamant that it is. She doesn't want it to be put into dystopian category.
Okay, I don't remember well enough, I guess. Okay.
But, so this is, if you lived under a rock again, this is a book. The main character is named Offred. She is a handmaid, which is basically a fertile woman in an infertile world, who has been chosen / taken and forced to kind of be this surrogate mother. And so every night she is, well, not every night, but every night after, when she's ovulating, she is forced upon by the man of the house with his wife there to witness it. So she's basically kind of treated like, she's not really treated as garbage, but she's treated not as a person, which is why it is a feminist book. But it's beautifully written. It's a beautiful book, beautiful story. I cried. I'm not a big crier, but I cried reading this book because so much of what Offred goes through, and so many of the emotions that she talks about in the story, just really touch you throughout the book. If you don't want to read this series, I would implore you to watch the Hulu series, because it is also amazing.
It is good.
And
my nominee for surprising book is something that I began reading last year and just finished recently. Not in time for the movie, unfortunately, but Murder on the Orient Express. It's a murder mystery, of course, and yeah, I didn't see the ending coming, even though maybe I should have.
Did the American do it?
You'll just have to read it and find out.
No!
And no spoiling, because I'm going to make her read it.
Spoil it.
No, can't spoil it.
Alright. And in Ethan's category that he added was
your most disappointing book. So maybe something that was hyped up or you were looking forward to, and then you read and it wasn't what everything you might have wanted it to be.
So I had 2 disappointing reads. The first one of 2017 was Flame in the Best by Renee Audier. This book's awful. I will just say that right now. Renee Audier is a really good writer. I have 2 of her other books that are also highly anticipated that I can't wait to read either, and I know that she's a good author. But this book is not good. It was not good to me. It was marketed as a Mulan retelling. It is not. This book takes place in Japan. Mulan took place in China. The way that Renee Audier wrote this story, because it was marketed as a Mulan retelling, so I pictured a girl who was dressed. The video cut off again. We now know we have a size limit on videos, but I was in the middle of this rant, so I'm going to start again. Marketed as a Mulan retelling, this is not a Mulan retelling. Publishers lie. Let's get that out there right now. Publishers will lie, and they like to market retellings right now because they're all the hype. This is not worth the hype. This is Mulan. If you don't know, Mulan is a Disney movie based on the true event of a girl named Mulan who dressed as a guy to take her father's place in the Chinese army to go on and fight the Huns. She wins. She is celebrated. Takes place in China. This book takes place in Japan. Not a Mulan retelling. This girl does not go fight Huns. She instead dresses as a guy and goes and flirts with other guys. There's not any of the alchemy that's promised in this book. The main girl character is one of the crappiest female leads I've ever read besides any James Dashner books. I hate James Dashner. And It's very badly written. It focuses on the romance aspect, and the whole reason why she dresses as a guy to begin with is it's crap. It's a crap reason. There's really no reason why she should have done it. And also, towards the back of the book, Renee included this glossary of terms. Now, one of the terms that is a Japanese word, she translates it into English. One of these words is tabi, which means split-toed socks. So you might have seen it in like cartoons or movies. It's a big white sock. It has a place for four toes, comes down, comes back up, and then there's the place for the big toe. But throughout this book, and even the cat hates this book.
Yeah.
Say it, Artemis. Yeah. Throughout this book, Renee will say, tabby socks, tabby socks, tabby socks, tabby socks. You know what that basically is saying? Split-toed socks. How stupid and redundant is that? This book is pure crap. Renee can write. I am not going to say that she can't write. Renee Audier can write. She's a really good writer. I don't know what happened in this book, but she's a really good writer. And if you're reading a Renee Audier book for the first time, don't read this book. Oh God, no. This is awful. And my next one, Jocelyn got cut off. I'm still so mad. We shouldn't have ended on this. I'm so mad. The Last Star by Rick Yancey. Rick Yancey, who can also write really well, wrote The Fifth Way, The Infinite Sea. This is the third in the series. I love The Fifth Way. I love The Infinite Sea. I hate this book. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. This is the Lost equivalent of a book telling. You know Lost, like the TV series? This is the book equivalent. Nothing makes sense in this book. The ending is crap. It basically should have ended and it was all a dream and Cassie woke up, because it would have been better than the ending that we got in here. Crap. This is crap. What happened? I don't know. People suck.
It's okay, dear.
I really wanted to move on retelling.
Okay, so for this category, I also have two books. The first one is All the Birds in the Sky, which is...
Oh, I still didn't get up to get it.
which is a modern day
Romeo and Juliet
adaptation, but it's more like a techno-wizard sort of deal, where technology's more advanced versus witches with magic. And my wife kind of liked it, but she thought...
I hated it.
Really?
Oh,
I thought you liked that.
Oh, I hated it.
Anyway, she thought maybe it would be my sort of book, but I never got into it, so it was disappointing. And then my second one is going to be Earth of Fire, which is by Orson Scott Card.
This is going to be a monstrously long video. This is clip number 3.
And the battery died this time. So anyway, my second book for Most Disappointing Book this year is going to be Earth of Fire, which is by Orson Scott Card, which is still probably one of my favorite authors.
He's the writer of Ender's Game.
Ender's Game is in my top 5 favorite books of all time. He's a great author, but this one, it just kind of pushed what you can expect and the realism a little bit too far. For instance, one of the main characters is a 5-year-old boy in a third world country that builds a ladder so he can sneak into the library and study every night. Is that realistic? I don't really think so, but you know, take it as you will. There are other things, but basically, yeah, I was really looking forward to the series because it's by one of my favorite authors, and it has its good moments, but it also has its bad ones, unfortunately. So,
I also want to say that with All the Birds in the Sky, which I probably should have put for least favorite book as well as Nine Fox Gambit, I thought that you would like it because it tended to focus more on sci-fi. It was. I don't see why that book. It was really good writing. Charlie Jane Anders did really good writing it, but it was so weird, and it didn't make sense, and it was very confusing. But it tried to blend sci-fi and fantasy together. Normally they don't go together.
And it tried to force it into the Romeo and Juliet plot line, and
Because
I
that
felt like
also sells a lot.
It didn't quite work, in my opinion.
Oh no, it was awful.
Trying not to be too harsh, but
the the romance between those two main characters was very awkward, wasn't it? That's how I felt.
I don't even know if I got that far.
No, you DNF'd it.
I did DNF it.
I managed to make it through the book, and it was at one point the characters made it official, if you want to say it like that. And it's supposed to be like this beautiful moment between them, and it just felt really awkward. Like it was like the equivalent of watching your parents kiss. That's how awkward it was. When you're like 5, not when you're now, because you know when it's our age, we're just like it's normal. But when you're 5, it's like ew, gross. That's how it felt. All right, so that was our 2017 Book Academy Awards nominations thingy, where we got to rant and rave about books that we loved and hated.
Yep. Man,
that took up like 3 memory cards.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again next year.
When we save up for more memory cards. Alright, so thank you guys again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!